If you guys could smell the smell I'm smelling right now. What is up, everybody? Steve here. I hope you are doing well. Today we're going to talk about foreclosures as well as REOs, real estate owned properties, and it only makes sense if we're going to be talking about these properties to actually bring you guys through an REO property located here in Naples, Florida. So what I want to talk about is a handful of things. For one thing, I want to talk about the differences between a foreclosure and an REO, a real estate owned property. And also I want to talk about the process of buying a foreclosure through auction and really what to look out for, because you know, the average investor can or the average home buyer can get in a lot of trouble if you don't know what you're doing, and we'll talk more about that. So I'm gonna go look at this REO property. It's listed on the MLS. I don't really have any intention on making an offer on the property. I think that in today's climate it's currently grossly overpriced, even for a bank foreclosed property. And but what I am doing is, it's in an area in Naples that I have not checked out before. We've invested in other properties close to it, but this property is close to Old Naples, and the price point just seems outrageous for what it is. I mean, you guys are gonna see what I'm talking about. We'll talk details of the property. But you know, I've coached hundreds and hundreds of real estate agents over the years, and especially new agents coming into the business, one thing that we would talk about in terms of a schedule is to go out and look at real estate every day, especially if you're green and you don't have much going on. It's really important to go and look at properties all throughout the areas that you're concentrating on. And that's also if you guys are an investor or even just a home buyer, because you might think that you want to buy in a specific area, but there's a lot of other areas that you just haven't checked out, and you have no clue what that area offers. And as a real estate investor as well, it's important to really just check out different areas, different communities, different locations that are nearby, because when you do, then when you can when a deal comes to market, then you can really spot a deal and know if, you know, that's a good deal for the area. So even though that this property likely will not make sense for us, you know, based on their asking price and everything else, it's still good to get out to the area. Okay, enough said. So there is a difference between a foreclosure and an REO. Keep in mind, before I go into detail about this, all jurisdictions and all states are different in terms of how they transact and how they go through the judicial process for foreclosure. So I'm a real estate broker, I'm not a real estate attorney, so it's important to speak to the appropriate professionals in your area. That's number one, because all areas are different. But generally speaking, when a bank forecloses, they repossess the property, and then they usually will go through an auction through the county. And a lot of times that could be, you could be physically present for it, or a lot of them, like say Lee County, they have online auctions, and a lot of times they outsource these companies to facilitate their online auctions. And many times there's a hybrid where you can be physically present or just do online. Now, the issues with buying foreclosures at an auction, in many cases, and in Florida anyway, a lot of times you're not able to get into the property, so you can't inspect them. In most cases, you have to basically pay cash. And also, more importantly, is in many cases they're not conveying that property with title insurance. So they're not insuring the chain of title. So what you have is, you have a first, in many cases, it's primarily, and this could vary also because HOAs can foreclose as well, but a lot of times it's a first lien holder who is no longer receiving payment, they foreclose, and usually that will get wiped out in the foreclosure. However, a second lien or a contractor's lien or a municipality or a code violation or back utilities could still be attached to that property and didn't get wiped out in that foreclosure. So if there's, say, a second lien on the property and it didn't get wiped out, and you went to the auction and you bid on the property and you didn't do a title search and you closed on it and that second lien is still attached, you could be in a position where you're gonna have to pay for that loan against the property. And that brings me into a quick story. So, and I've worked with many investors over the years, and two specific investors. One, just he would buy a ton of foreclosures through the auctions, and very sophisticated. He owns a title company, and it worked out really well by owning the title company because they would do all the title searches for him in-house, so they knew what they were up against. Now, another investor that I've dealt with over the years, he bought a property, and I want to say at auction he picked up this property for like 200 grand, maybe 250 grand, something like that. And the lien against it, the first lien holder who foreclosed, I think the lien was roughly like 350 grand. Anyway, he didn't do a title search on it, buys the property, or he did kind of a half-ass title search on it, buys the property, and then finds out there's a second lien on the property of another 150. So he picked up the property, so I think for like 200 grand at auction, and then he had a second lien on the property I had no idea about, and now he's all in for 350,000 roughly on this property, if I recall from memory, because this happened a while ago. So he was just upset, and it sucks, and he had to basically wait out the market until the values got up high enough where he could sell. And he actually had his son move into the property, so it kind of worked out. But for the average person buying foreclosures at auction, you got to be very careful. Now, outside of title search, a lot of times title search doesn't pull up municipality liens or code violations or utility liens. So it's important that if you guys are buying properties at auction, foreclosures at auction, that you guys actually do all of that research outside of what a title company is going to do. You guys want to contact, all the municipalities, anything associated with that property that could have any ties to that property. You guys want to be sure that you guys are contacting and giving the address and making sure that there's nothing against the property, because there's a lot of other people that I've heard of horror stories of, they had just random municipality liens against the property that didn't show up in title searches either, that I'm talking $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 liens against property. So it's important to do your due diligence. And remember, another thing is, a lot of times you can't get into these properties to even inspect or anything else. So you might end up in a position where you go into a property and you're trying to look in the windows and everything else, and turns out there's completely no kitchen, or part of the roof is caving in, or there's a lot of things that can go wrong with a property that you just were unable to get in and inspect. Now, the other side, the other coin, is called REO, which is real estate owned. So that's basically where, the bank went through the foreclosure process, probably didn't get the reserve met, meaning their minimum price that they would be willing to accept for the property, and then they go ahead and release it to the open market, usually through a real estate agent. By the way, if you're a real estate agent, I got some links down in the description for you guys if you're interested in listing REO properties. But basically, these properties, a lot of times they'll go to open market, but a lot of times they'll still go through some sort of auction website in many cases as well. So you still have kind of an auction feel to it, but these properties go to the open market, and that's called real estate owned. And banks, they hate real estate. They hate to do this. They hate to take the property on like this, because now they're responsible for the upkeep of the property. Now they're responsible for the real estate taxes, the insurance of the property, the maintenance of the property. If there's squatters in there, getting squatters out of the property. So they have a lot of responsibility now with the property, and banks are not in the business of property management. So they hate holding these properties. In many cases, the real estate agent, I've listed a bunch of REOs in the past, the real estate agent is responsible in many cases for even upfronting the expenses for this kind of stuff. You get reimbursed, but a lot of times the real estate agent is responsible for hiring the contractors and everything else. So banks do not want to be in this position, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side of the coin you're on, I think that we're going to see a lot more foreclosures come to the market over the next 2 years. Right now in Lee and Collier County, there's about I just missed my turn. There's about like literally like 17 REO properties on the market in our MLS right now for sale. It's pretty astonishing. And you know, those numbers obviously would be way higher if we didn't have all the moratoriums and everything associated with the government intervention that we had. So anyway, I am pulling up to this house, and I just want to kind of review the differences there, and really what to watch out for, because you know, if you don't know what you're doing, you can definitely end up in some really bad shape. So let's jump into this foreclosure. So we got an elementary school across the way here. Could be good or bad depending on what you like. All right, so this foreclosure is located in an area called Lake Park. On the other side of 41, you got Old Naples, which Old Naples, you can kind of walk to the beach, and I got some serious bubble on this floor. See that? So the price points that they're asking out here, I think, are just outrageous. I mean, I think they're asking like $950, $995 or something for this property. All these floors are buckling, and location's good though, but I mean, everything's just still outrageously priced, which I think is a matter of time before a lot of people are not paying these kind of prices. This property looks like it was added to over the years, and I've dealt with Collier County here in Naples with other properties like this that were added on, and one of which turned into an absolute disaster. You know, I really have a backyard here. Turned into a disaster because the lady at the county, man, she was basically saying that we had to tear down basically, well, if you guys could look at this. If you guys could smell, the smell I'm smelling right now. Oh, I gotta get out of this room. Oh God, I was thrilled. All right, enough of this house. I gotta get out of here. It looks like that back part might have been built on. Oh shit. Oh, that was disgusting. So the lady at the county was basically saying that owners at some point in time, or one of the owners in the chain of title, built onto this property and built past the setbacks of the property, so it was going into like this little lake. It was too close to the edge of the property basically, and she was basically saying that we had to cut the back half of the house off, and so we fought it, and we actually had to go into the archives in Naples to show that the structure that was built behind there was after or before all the new building codes back in the 70s or whatever the case is. And sure enough, the back part of that property was built in like the 60s, so we were good to go, but we had to fight and fight and fight. So certain things that, and that was a foreclosure as well. And anyway, it got me nervous because that was going to cut like half of our square footage. So there's the kind of things too when you're buying a foreclosure that you got to watch out for. But this place is disgusting. I think I got fleas, and definitely not. You'd probably have to get this property for like 600 grand right now in today's market. Put at least 150 into it, maybe more. I don't know. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for being with me here today, and I'll see you guys on the next video. See ya.